Hey there, art nerds. Today I have a shortened, condensed, time-lapsed review of the Arteza Studio Mixed Media Art Set. I did this originally as a big live stream unbox and swatch together, but I know your time is precious and you probably don't have 3 hours to watch me live stream this. So here's a shortened version for you. So this is the Arteza Studio Mixed Media Art Set, and unfortunately it no longer seems to be listed on the Arteza site or on Amazon. This set includes some of the same things that we'd already seen in the metallic mixed media set, and I'll link that in the cards and in the description for you guys below. And those things would be the Watercolor Pad, the black DIY frame sketch pad, and the metallic watercolors. But there's also a lot we haven't checked out yet, and I'm really looking forward to sharing this with you guys today. So I paid $60.99 and I ordered it from the Arteza site. Here's a clip from the metallic mixed media set that we reviewed previously, and this one really focuses on your paints and metallics. So you have watercolor, you have gouache, there's acrylic, there's gel pens, there's also acrylic paint pens, there's some substrates to paint on. It came with a bunch of paper and it was around $100. And spoiler alert, I think this is the better of the two kits, and it's almost kind of fortunate that you can't actually order the kit that I'm reviewing today, because this is the better buy. And the two sets have some things in common, like I just mentioned, but this seems to be the stronger kit. Both kits come in these reusable wooden boxes. They look pretty good. They smell nice. Generally, when I'm reviewing art kits like these, I tend to stay away from the kits that come in the really nice wooden boxes, because often it feels like all the money is spent on the box. But these are nicer boxes, and I do think the materials inside for both of these kits more than makes up for the price that you're paying. So inside this particular kit are metallic watercolors, a 24 water-soluble oil pastel set, a DIY frame black sketch pad, 3 white gel pens, 36 watercolor cakes, HB and 2B drawing pencils, a watercolor pad, a plastic palette, 24 Inkonic pens, 24 color pencils, a drawing pad, a kneaded eraser, a PVC or a white vinyl eraser, a pencil sharpener, 6 Woodless graphite pencils, 24 watercolor pencils, 4 water brushes, a color mixing wheel, a wooden art case, a drawing, and I think I already said the drawing pad and the mixed media pad, sorry about that. So the case is slightly different from the first one. This one unhinges with smaller clasps. It doesn't actually open all the way. I don't think it's actually designed to. And there's also a color wheel inside that, I don't know about you guys, but I don't find these color wheels to be particularly useful. So while it's cute and it's a neat add-on and it makes you feel like an artist, it's not something I think is particularly useful. This also comes with a pamphlet describing everything that's in the kit with helpful QR codes, so you can find more tips, tricks, and tutorials on the Arteza website. And that's one of the things that I really like about Arteza products, is that they are trying to make their art supplies more accessible to people who might not be as familiar with them. So you don't actually have to go searching for tutorials and tricks. You can just go to their website. That's a bit of a double-edged sword. As somebody who does reviews and tutorials, you know, recommending that kind of puts me out of business, but it also really pushes the Arteza family of products. And while some of them are pretty good, some of them are pretty sad. So this is from the metallic mixed media unbox and swatch. It's the metallic watercolors, and those are in both sets. So I figured it was fine to just include that here and not open both, since I don't need both and I would actually like to rehome the other set. So I really liked these in the initial unbox and swatch. I thought that they were fairly opaque. I thought that they had pretty good activation. I think they show up well on white paper and on black paper. This is one of the better things in both of the sets. I also like that it comes in its own little palette with half pans, so that it has some reusability and some portability. So with these kits, so much of what's in these kits is stored in the kit that unless you bring the whole kit or you're willing to kind of carry it in a separate carrying case, it loses some of its portability. So one of the things that I I both liked and disliked, it's a pro and a con, is that these metallic watercolors are ready to travel when you're ready to travel. So when it comes to an art kit, with the exception of the papers, which I'll talk about a little bit more later on, I generally expect everything to fit in the box it came with. And with the metallic mixed media kit, that kit does a really good job. Everything fits into the kit itself, including the metallic watercolors. But with the kit we're taking a look at today, there's a lot of products, the Watercolor Cakes and these metallic watercolors and the Inkonic pens that don't actually fit in the case, so it's not quite as compact. You do receive this in a really large cardboard box, so it is ready to be gifted. It is all in one place, including the paper to be given as a present. But generally when it comes to kits, I like to see everything kind of fit into that wooden box. Something else to keep in mind is that everything not in the kit itself is individually shrink wrapped, and some of the shrink wrapping is really difficult to get into. I already went ahead and set aside some of the duplicates that I'd already received. So the black DIY sketch frames, I really like those in the metallic mixed media. I think they're really cool, and I am going to demonstrate them a little bit later on, but those are a really cool idea. I also set aside their pad of watercolor paper. It's their cellulose watercolor paper. It's a fine, inexpensive watercolor paper. It's good for beginners. It has kind of a linen texture to it that I don't like as a watercolor artist, but I think somebody who's new to art isn't necessarily going to have a problem with it. So right now I'm unwrapping the drawing pad. There's also a mixed media pad, and you guys can see the watercolor pad and the black DIY sketch frames, as well as the Inkonic pens and the watercolor cakes. So these and the metallic watercolors were all kind of separately shrink wrapped together and included on top of the kit. So kind of strangely for me during this unbox and swatch, I didn't really do anything with the included drawing pad. It's a pretty typical drawing pad. It seems to be pretty comparable to, say, 300 or 400 series Strathmore drawing paper. I did get a chance to really play around with their mixed media paper though, and I feel like it's fine. It's about on par with Canson's XL media paper or Strathmore's 300 series mixed media paper. It has a good amount of tooth. It has a better texture in my opinion than the watercolor paper, but it's thinner and it's more prone to buckling if water is added. I'm going to talk about the Inkonic pens a little bit more later on, but I do like the packaging on these. They came in a sturdy metal tin with a plastic liner. They have a black body and the color is indicated by the cap and the post. These watercolor cakes were a little bit of a mystery for me. I understood that they were including them. I just don't really know why they included them, because those were kind of sold as children's grade paints when you do a little bit of digging on their site and on Amazon. So I want to swatch them, and I'm spritzing them with water to give them a chance to activate. And I've reviewed this style of dry watercolor cakes here on the channel a few times with the Angora watercolors. That might actually be on the Natto Soup Studio blog, but I've definitely done the Artist Loft paints in the past, and generally I'm not a fan of these kind of inexpensive watercolor cakes, and generally I recommend that people kind of avoid them. So I felt like these were very similar to the Artist Loft ones that were kind of popular a few years ago. They do have a slightly different color palette, which I like better, but they're still pretty opaque and chalky. And it doesn't seem, just from the swatching, that these would really layer well, particularly on this inexpensive watercolor paper. So these could be fine for watercolor doodling or watercolor sketches, but if you want to do a more elaborate watercolor illustration, these cakes are not going to be able to deliver what you're looking for. I am kind of tempted to do a field test with these cakes. I do want to do a field test for both of these art kits at some point, where I sit down and I create a full illustration with them to really test out how well they work as a cohesive set. So hopefully you'll keep an eye out for that. But I personally found these cakes to be kind of a pass for me. I was pretty excited about the water-soluble oil pastels because even though I don't do a lot with pastels here on the channel, I really like them and I have a lot of fondness for them. So I wanted to swatch them so we could get an idea of how they handle as well as how water-soluble they actually are, because I have reviewed a few water-soluble crayons and water-soluble almost oil pastels here on the channel, and typically I can't stand them. I really don't like them in general. So I was kind of hoping these would be the exception. So these are pretty similar when you're using them dry to to Sakura's Crepa, and they're not really water soluble as they don't readily and easily activate or mix with water. They're also a bit gummy and there's a fair amount of dust, and they don't necessarily blend well together until you introduce water, and even then it's kind of iffy. I just really wasn't a huge fan of these personally. They're not something that I could see myself wanting to use. I guess I just don't work in a way that's kind of conducive to these types of products in general. But even if I worked larger and my focus wasn't smaller comic and illustrative art, I still don't think I would like these particular water-soluble pastels. Now, in the chat, people recommended that I check out the Neocolor water-soluble pastels, and I think I did review those a while back and I didn't like them. However, they'd sat out in the Louisiana sun, and that probably ruined how the interiors of them. So I would definitely be open to trying the Neo pastels again. But these did not sit out on the sun. They've been sitting in a nice air-conditioned house for a little less than a month, and they're just really not that great. I think if you want oil pastels or you want to give oil pastels, then Crepa will make the person who's receiving these happier than these will. I was also really excited to try out the Arteza watercolor pencils because I've heard good things. Now, keep in mind, Arteza has a few lines of watercolor pencils. These are the premium. The expert ones I've heard are much better, and I would be interested in trying those out. I'm also using this as an opportunity to try out the included mixed media paper. It is a perforated paper, so you can tear it out and then remove the edges so that you have a nice clean sheet of paper. And I really like that because I find spiral binding makes things more accessible for someone like me who travels a lot or used to travel a lot. So since these are the premium line, they're pretty much a student grade watercolor pencil, and I felt like these were nothing to write home about. They weren't particularly good, and they're not really very water soluble. In fact, I feel like they're about on par with Crayola, maybe a little bit closer to Prismacolor watercolor pencils. And about a year ago, I did a huge comparative watercolor pencil review, so I'm basing my opinions on everything I learned during that review. So if you're interested in buying some high quality watercolor pencils that you'll be happy with time and time again, I hope you guys will check that playlist out. I'll try to link that either in the cards or in the description for you guys. Speaking of cards and description, down in the description I'm going to have my show notes for this review for my friends who would rather read along rather than just listening along. Now, to be fair, I am ad-libbing quite a bit, but the basic meat and potatoes, my basic thoughts are all written down in the show notes, including links and prices. So hopefully you guys will check that out. So if you're new here, I'm Becca. I'm a watercolor comic artist and illustrator. I'm also an art teacher, and I have been reviewing art supplies for over 10 years. And every year around Christmas time, I review a few art kits to help my friends who are buying arty gifts for loved ones and for the other artists in their lives. So if I seem like I'm kind of critical or kind of harsh, I am. I'm coming from the standpoint of an artist, an illustrator, an art supply reviewer, and someone who teaches younger artists and artists of all ages. So art supplies that allow you to create what you want to create, that allow you to create what you can imagine, are really important. And you don't have to spend a lot of money to get good art supplies. That's one of the big goals here on the channel, is helping people find art supplies that meet their budget and meet their needs. And unfortunately, a lot of what was included in this particular art kit, I don't think it's really the best choice to do that. It might be one of the better values for your dollar in that, in terms of what you're getting. And it's better than a lot of the art kits that are on the market. But I think in terms of individual supplies, there's a lot of really mediocre things in it. Now, one of the things that wasn't mediocre are these Inkonic inking pens. I was surprised. I really kind of like them. I think they're kind of neat. I like the color selection, and the tin is really nice. These are similar to the ones I've seen on AliExpress for a long time, and they benefit from a change in grippiness on the cap to help those of us who have grip issues, because it's a little bit difficult to remove the caps. They are Copic marker proof, and I'll test that for you guys in a minute. Right now I'm just kind of swatching the colors, but they're not necessarily entirely waterproof, but they are still legible after water was added. And they're very similar to the Staedtler Tri-Plus fine liner. So if you're looking for something similar to that, these are pretty comparable. I would say check the price point, because Arteza at full price tends to be really pricey for what it is. So I would recommend waiting for a sale either on Amazon or the Arteza website and buying then. And you can actually use Honey, they're not a sponsor, I just use them, to drop list items, and they'll let you know when the item is listed at a lower price point and when it's available at a historically low price point. So that can be a really good way to savvily shop. So like I said, they're Copic proof. There was no smearing, no bleeding, no color movement. When I added water on top of them though, they do start to blur out a little bit, but they are still legible. So you could probably do some really cool watery techniques with these. Anyway, I thought these were pretty fun and a pretty fair value for what you're getting. I just wish they would have fit in the wooden box itself. So I'm going to test out the color pencils now on the black DIY sketch frame paper. Like I said, I really like this. The thing transforms into a frame. So I'll talk about that in a minute, but I felt like the color pencils themselves, I wanted to test them on the black paper to test their opacity, and I thought it'd be really fun to try them out. They're probably about on par with Crayola. They're not as brittle as Prismacolor, but they're not anything to write home about either. They're not particularly good, and these are still in the premium line. They're not in the expert line. Expert line is their nicer line. And I found that the triangular shape is hard to sharpen, and I tried out their sharpener, and their sharpener does not seem to be very good. almost don't know why they included it. And they did start to hurt my fingers after a while. I do have early onset arthritis, so that's one of the reasons I talk about grip and comfort a lot. I think it's really important. And even if you're a younger artist, being able to take care of your hands and work with materials that don't wreck your hands from a younger age means that you're going to have a longer amount of time that you can enjoy making art. So the cool thing about this black paper is it can fold up into a frame in and of itself. One of the downsides is you lose a lot of the paper's size when you fold it into a frame. This kit also comes with 3 white gel pens, and they're fine, white gel pens. The thing about gel pens is they tend to work straight out of the box, and then a week later they tend to die. So it's hard to judge whether these gel pens are, great gel pens right off the start. They did start writing immediately, and I didn't have any issues with ink flow, starting, stopping, skipping, anything like that. So hopefully they're still good. So the DIY sketch frame paper has more of a smooth Bristol surface. It doesn't have a lot of tooth. And I thought maybe that's why the color pencils just aren't doing so well. So I decided to create a rainbow road. And for that, you're just working in rainbow order, trying to get the colors to blend as seamlessly as possible into each other. And these are just not really very soft enough. They're not soft enough to really facilitate that. And they also have a tendency to wear my hands out pretty quick. But I'm not a big color pencil person anymore. I used to be when I was in high school. I loved color pencils. They are a very affordable way to add color to your art, and I think they're great for that. I've just moved away from them personally as an artist. They don't have a huge place in my art anymore. But I've reviewed a few color pencils here on the channel, and I do really appreciate nice color pencils like Polychromos when I come across them. And generally, I prefer color pencils that have a softer, more buttery core. Those are easier on my hands. I tried using the white color pencil to sort of blend the colors together to help facilitate it. Unfortunately, that adds too much white. You can buy a a clear Prismacolor blender pencil, and that'll do a better job of blending the colors than using the white will, but the white is what we have in the kit, so I thought I'd go with it. So now I'm going to try out the stationery supplies, the different pencils, starting with the Woodless pencils. So we have 6 Woodless graphite pencils, and what that means is there's no wood, it's just all graphite. And this type of pencil tends to be very brittle and prone to breaking, so you want to be careful not to drop it. And I felt like they were okay. They don't progress much in terms of darkness and intensity, but they do in actual softness, and I found them to be somewhat brittle even for what they are. So one of the pros of these kind of pencils is you can actually fill a large area with graphite by using the side of the pencil. They work fine for this. I used to use Woodless graphite pencils all the time for graphite transfers, and now I just use a big chunk of graphite for that, but they work okay for that. So with the HB and the 2B drawing pencils, these are the only expert or some of the few expert products included in this kit. These felt a bit light and a bit flimsy, and I didn't feel like the difference between the leads was actually a big enough difference to justify having both. I would have preferred to have seen an HB and a 4B, for example, because they were pretty similar. The white vinyl eraser works like a white vinyl eraser. I'm a big fan of white vinyl erasers. That's my preference. I use the Pentel high polymer white vinyl erasers most of the time, and the gum eraser was the stickiest gum eraser I've ever used. Like, it stuck to my hand. It was kind of like silly putty, but it was able to erase. After the stream, I spent some time digging around on Amazon and the Arteza website to find prices for everything. The total value for this kit was $150.40, but I will disclose I had to do some substitutions because I couldn't find some of these products on the site. So the 12-piece metallic watercolor set is $15 approximately. The 24-piece oil pastel set, I could not find that on Arteza or Amazon, so I went with something very similar. The Sakura Expressionist Crayons are very similar, and those are $15.26. The premium watercolor pad for a two-pack split that in half would be $11. The 10 sheet DIY sketch frame pad is $5. The 3 white gel pens, Arteza's website says those are worth $15.99, and I think that's crazy. The 36 watercolor cakes, they're listed online as a kid's watercolor kit or children's watercolor kit, and they come with a water brush. That's $12.99. The HB and 2B drawing pencils, you get them in a set of 12 on the Arteza site, so I broke that down. So those 2 pencils together would be $2.33. I couldn't find that particular plastic palette on the site, but you can buy them at Dollar Tree for $1. The Inkonic pens were $13.99. The 24 set of color pencils is $9.50. The Kneaded Eraser was not on the Arteza site, so I went with the closest match, a Faber-Castell Kneaded Eraser with a case for $1.50. The PVC eraser was also not found on the Arteza site, so I went with the closest match, a Pentel High Polymer Eraser for 90 cents. The Sharpener was not found on the Arteza site, so I went with the closest match, which was 30 cents. The Woodless Graphite pencils, you can't buy just 6 of those, so they're available in a set of 12. 6 would be about $5 approximately. The 24 watercolor pencils, that style is no longer available on the Arteza site, but I did find a 48 set on Amazon, so it's approximately $9.50. The 4 water brushes, they didn't have those water brushes on the Arteza site, so I went with the closest match on the Arteza site, so $10 approximately. The color mixing wheel is not available on their site, so I went with something similar, which was $6.50. We have the wooden case. I don't have a price for that. The drawing pad was $7 approximately. The mixed media pad was not listed on the Arteza site or on Amazon, so I went with similar, a Strathmore 300 series mixed media pad, 40 sheets for $7.64. So I had to do a lot of substitutions and a lot of guesswork because basically very little on their site or their Amazon is listed in the quantities that came in this set. So it's just kind of strange for me. I kind of wonder if they were just trying to clear out some stock with this, but that's how my total is $150.04. And I feel like Arteza is kind of all over the place with some of these prices, and right now so many things on their site are sold out or no longer carried. It sort of feels like this was an opportunity to clear house, or like they bought a kit as is and rebranded and retrofitted parts of it. I don't think that's a very accurate representation of the art supplies in this kit, as the Arteza site does not sell many of these items like the water-soluble pastels, the gum erasers, PVC erasers, mixed media pads, and I had to draw from close substitutions. In addition, the Arteza site claims that those 3 white gel pens are $15.99, and that kind of inflated the total as well. And honestly, 3 gel pens for $15.99 is a terrible deal. So let's talk about the pros and cons of this particular kit. So let's start with the pros. I appreciate that Arteza thinks to include papers with their art kits. Most of the kits I've reviewed don't come with paper, and the inclusion of papers means that an artist can get started right away rather than ordering online or making another trip to the store. This kit is also way better than most of the art kits out on the market, with the exception of the kits released by well-known art brands like Faber-Castell and Winsor Newton. And the box is really nice, and it doesn't take up a lot of space, and I appreciate that the watercolor pencil drawer comes out and you can actually like put it with your stuff. As you guys saw, I utilized that. So what are the cons? You can't find it. Arteza isn't listing it, and Amazon doesn't have it. The quality of many of the items is also kind of ho-hum to me. It's a lot of premium stuff that feels much cheaper than it actually should. But I have to remind myself that really this kit isn't for me. If Arteza made an expert kit with professional quality materials, that might be a better fit and I might be happier with it. The quality is also all over the place. Some of the products are pretty great and some are pretty meh. This kit isn't really consistent in terms of quality, which makes it difficult for me to know which age group it's for. And many of the supplies don't fit in the box, the Inkonic pens and the watercolors. And I know that's a nitpick, but I don't know, it just bugs me. And I feel like this kit was kind of like Arteza's just unloading some product that doesn't do so well to make way for newer products. And as it is, Arteza has a huge product line. I mean, they make school supplies, they make supplies for schools, they make crafting kits, they make pouring acrylic, they make drawing supplies. Well, really, they don't make any of this. They're white labeling all of it from other companies and selling it with the Arteza branding. So you might see similar products for a way lower price point. In the end, this particular kit is not such a great fit for me, and I was kind of disappointed, which is a shame because I was really looking forward to this kit. I thought this could be a great introduction for people who like to do mixed media in terms of drawing. So the other kit was very painting focused. This kit could have been better suited to someone who enjoys drawing and illustration, and I was really excited about that because I'm somebody who focuses on drawing and illustration. That's a lot of what I do here on the channel, and I was hoping this would be a kit that, even if the quality wasn't up to what I'm used to as a professional artist, it would be something that I'd feel happy recommending to my students who might want to accrue a lot of art supplies to get started with without paying a whole lot of money. And I know $69 seems like a lot of money for an art kit to some people, but the really cheap $5 art kits are so much worse. Those are a waste of $5, when realistically, there's a lot about this kit that makes it worth the $60. I just feel like the other kit I reviewed for you guys is worth so much. That's a better fit and you're going to be happier with it. So between the two kits, I'd say that the mixed media metallic kit, the first one that I reviewed, is way better, and fortunately it's still available. It feels more cohesive and better thought out, and the materials inside are mostly of comparable quality. It's also a better gift for someone interested in getting into painting but isn't sure which medium is right for them. I was really hoping that this kit, which is named almost identically and it's kind of confusing trying to find them, would be good because it seems like a great starting place. It has pencils and watercolors and watercolor pencils and color pencils, etc. But unfortunately, the quality is not what I'd hoped to see. So in the end, if this kit should become available again, I would recommend you skip this one and go with the metallic mixed media set. I think it is just a better kit in general. I think the supplies inside are of better quality. And in the end, I think it's going to be more useful and bring more joy either to your life or the life of the person you're gifting it to. And I've been reviewing a lot of Arteza products here lately, partially because they had some really good deals for Black Friday and for Cyber Monday, but also because this brand is trying to become a competitor. It's becoming really well known. They have worked with some influencers. They've also taken out a lot of brands. It's recommended to me a lot. It's pretty ubiquitous on Amazon. So I thought it would be useful to review some more of their products so that I could recommend you stay away from them. And I hope that this has been helpful, useful, and informative for you guys. If you're watching it because you bought this kit, I'm sorry I didn't like it, but hopefully you guys will enjoy the field test where we sit down and we put this kit to use making a piece of art. If you're interested in checking out more of my art, and I hope you are, you can find me on Instagram at instagram.com/natosoup. You can hang out with me on Twitter at twitter.com/natosoup, or you can check out my art portfolio at natosoup.artstation.com, or you can read my watercolor webcomic 7-inch Kara for free at 7inchkara.com. If you read Kara and you enjoy it, I would love it if you'd reach out to me and let me know, because that really means the world to me. So I hope you guys found this helpful, useful, and informative, and I hope to see you guys again really soon with another great art supply review or tutorial. So reviews like this one are made possible thanks to the amazing generosity of my sponsors, aka my patrons on Patreon, and my fabulous husband, both of which make this possible. So thank you guys so much. My patron names are to follow. Hopefully you guys will check them out, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.